Good afternoon. We are very happy to be here. The purpose of this session is to hear from Africa's young people about their views on the current situation and on the summit. So maybe I will start with you. You are from Uganda. If you can tell us a little bit about you and your organization.
Thank you, Madam Susanna. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mutes Oliver. I come from Uganda and I'm Vice President of the Pan-African Youth Union. To introduce myself more, I am from the organization which coordinates the official continental coordinating body for youth organizations and the focal agents of the African Union on matters of youth. It was founded in 1962. And the Pan-African Union, the mission is to mobilize all young people on the continent and to also validate the African Union policies for peace, democracy, and sustainable development on the continent.
Thank you for that. And we can say in recent months, we have seen again increase in uprising of Africa's youth. Could you maybe shed some light on that?
Well, the kind of uprisings that are happening across the continent are a result of unemployment. Most young people are going through hard times. People can't afford the basics. Young people have gone to school, they're educated, they're expected to make a living, but they can't. So this has created some kind of anger in them. They feel like the governments are not doing much. That's why most of them think that the only way something can be done is going on streets and showing their, should I call it, their discontent, or they show their situation. We have a problem when it comes to lack of credit. Young people can't access credit. They cannot have, they can't put up jobs for themselves, and the governments are bloated. Like, let's say civil service is bloated. The jobs that are there, they cannot be enough. And most in Africa, we have not done a lot when it comes to industrialization. We are only being taught that when you get out of university, you have to go and look for a job in a company. We are prepared to do white-collar jobs. We are not prepared to be job creators. When you look at the other continents, like let's say like Asia, China, Korea, these people, young people in schools are trained to be creative, that when you go out of school, you should go and create something. Even they have co-curricular activities. They do knitting. In their break time, they do things, they create things. But for us, we are taught to wake up in the morning, go in class, cram. After cramming, pass exams. We are not taught to be creative. Even myself, I cannot knit anything. I have 2 masters, but I can't even knit something small, where we have we consume a lot than what we produce. Everything we take in Africa is gotten from other continents. So if we can consume what we do not produce, it means we are going to be every time on purchasing, and we are not giving anything. So, which is going to create a lot of gaps, and then we are going to become very frustrated because our continent has the biggest number of young people. For example, I'll give an example in Uganda. The 75%, according to statistics, they are young people below 18, rather between 35 and 18. So, you cannot tell me that government is going to have jobs for all these people. The only way is to go into industrialization, where we are going to have people produce things, others are going to be in manufacturing, others are going to be in maybe agriculture and all that. But we think that we can only be happy if we get jobs from government, which jobs in government are not enough. That's why I see most young people are frustrated, and that frustration, they are pouring it out on streets. So my advice should be that, one, government should create incentives for these young people. Encourage them to go into business, but which kind of business? They should go promote agriculture sector, because where we come from, especially in East Africa, we agriculture people. But most young people, they sell their land and come to town to do what they call motorcycling, border. They abandon what should be the thing they invest in. You cannot sell, for example, in Uganda, we are a food hub. We feed people from even Kenya. We feed Kenyans, we feed South Sudan, we feed all our neighbors. But the thing that we should be depending on, we have abandoned it. So government has to create an avenue where it's going to interest young people in certain things that are going to bring in money, like agriculture. Give them incentives, create soft loans. Make it easy for young people to access credit. After accessing credit, remove all the barriers of saying that you have to have mortgage, because these young people, they don't have money. For example, you'll go to a bank to get a loan, they'll tell you bring a land title. You do not have it, because when I look at young girls, inheritance, the social culture barriers, they are not allowed to own land because land belongs to the men. So if you cannot have land, then you can't have a loan. If you can't have a loan, then you do not have a job. If you do not have a job, you're going to get frustrated and you're going to pour it out on the streets. So I would say that government should make it easy for young people to access these credit facilities so that they can invest, since they cannot provide these jobs for them. Secondly, we also have an issue of where we need our education system should be changed. That this education system is the one that is actually crippling young people. They train us to wake up in the morning, go and look for a job. We are job seekers, not job creators. Yet these jobs are not enough. So if we cannot create our own jobs, then it means we are going to have a very angry population. So government should change the system where it is going to create more of job creators than job seekers. So I think those are the solutions. Access to credit, then change the education system to modeling us into being more of job creators than job seekers.
Oh, thank you for these insights, very pertinent. And maybe we need to think beyond the education system, and you're absolutely right, what other conditions need to be in place. And also, the entrepreneurial attitudes probably need to be instilled from early age, as you're saying. And in the age of AI, it is said often that the main skills are critical thinking and creativity, as you said. So I will now turn to you, Nelly. Nelly is a colleague from Economic Commission for Africa. And it would be really great if we can talk about opportunities. So we know we have a major problem or challenge, and this is youth unemployment in middle-income countries, working poverty, informal employment. So we also have an opportunity in the form of African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So what can young people do to take advantage of that? And then maybe you can also tell us about the informal sector and the women working there. What can they do?
Great. Thank you so much, Susanna. And also many thanks to Oliver for your interventions, which are spot on. So as Oliver has mentioned, there is indeed a huge challenge of unemployment in our continent, which is, again, the youngest continent. We have the highest population being youth. And as you mentioned, we have an opportunity to solve these challenges that we are facing through the African Free Continental Trade Area, the AFCFTA, let me say that. So the AFCFTA creates opportunities in various forms. First of all, when you look at youth, the agreement itself has been ratified by the African now almost all African governments to open up the space for trading across borders with each others. So if you look at it only from the aspect of increasing the markets that youth people have, that is one way that the agreement is solving this situation of the challenges that youth are facing. But even we can also dissect that further into how exactly it is doing that. So first of all, when it comes to directly solving the employment problems, when exporting or trading firms have access to a market of 1.3 and growing, 1.3 billion people and growing in the continent, increasing of their trading activities will require them to absorb more human capital in form of people who are entering the job market and right now are not finding employment. So that is one way. But then the other way that responds directly also to what Oliver is saying is opening up more spaces for entrepreneurship, right? So young people now, and this also includes other people, we're not only limiting this youth, is that we have an opportunity to to expand businesses, but tap into markets that we did not have before the AFCFTA. But now, if we go back to the issue that Oliver was talking about access to financing is required to make sure that youth are able to take advantage of the AFCFTA, because setting up a business or even expanding an existing business to operate into other geographical regions in the continent will require financing. And this has been very well thought out. If you look at the structure of the AFCFTA and its protocols, it has been very well thought out. For instance, in the Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade, one of the key provisions that is included therein is a provision of financing for women and youth entrepreneurs. This is a responsibility that right now is a blanket responsibility for governments. If you look at the exact wording, it does not lay out exactly how governments are committing themselves to provide access to financing for young people. It just says that government should work together with financial institutions to avail financing for women and youth entrepreneurs. So the AFCFTA has so much potential, to solve many of the issues that many of the challenges that the continent is facing. And there has been political will thus far in as much as ratification of the process. It was quite quick when the countries were ratifying. But now what is lacking is the momentum, the momentum from the political side, but also from the private sector side to actually do now the implementation of the AFCFTA. So I will say there is a lot of potential in the agreement, but we need more push from all of us to make sure that youth, women, and other disadvantaged people as well, but especially the driving force, the private sector, can be able to trade within the continent. If I may also take a minute and respond to how the AFCFTA is an opportune driver for industrialization in the continent, because Oliver spoke about how we need to industrialize. So if you look at first of all, if you consider industrialization itself as a concept, setting up of industries in a country or in a region, and then again, because I'm trying to link with what Oliver was mentioning, that we have been brought up, we have been accustomed to being consumers and not creators, and there is a lot of creativity in the African continent, in the African youth especially, a lot of creativity. What we need now is to channel that creativity into productive areas, right? And so the AFCFTA and set up the African continent very, very strategically to be able even to develop value chains, in-country value chains, regional value chains, to be able to build the productive capacities of our people, of the private sector who are already participating, but also to absorb the capacities of people who are right now not participating productively in the economy. So if we can get now the push to actually now do the implementation of the AFCFTA, it will be a lever for socioeconomic development in the continent.
Thank you, Nelly, for this. So what I'm hearing from both of you, that industrialization is needed, and probably we also need, it will not happen by itself. So we need industrial policy and a modern version of it, which identifies the high potential sectors and supports them appropriately. But also we should not be forgetting agriculture. I think that was an important point you made, because that's where still majority of Africans are working today, and that's where a lot of potential is. Now, getting back to you, Oliver, the access to credit that you mentioned, and you were mentioning the land titles. So the idea is basically going from the land title to light or no collateral. And there are several ways of it doing, for example, psychometric testing, and also just behavioral kind of observation, how the borrowers are behaving. The challenge there is, though, that we cannot use it for startup capital. We can only use it for firms that already exist. So what else do you think? How about networking? We often have an impression that young people don't even know what opportunities are available to them in terms of government subsidies, programs, access to loans. So what other conditions maybe are needed for young, productive young engagement in the economy?
Just help me rephrase the question.
So you talk about credit, right? And besides credit, what else do you think young people need? Because credit is not often people get money, and there were several actually attempts, including in Kenya. So Youth Enterprise, Youth Employment Fund, or in Eswatini some decade ago, and the repayment rates were low, so it was not always successful. So what else do we need besides credit for the young people? What do you wish? You can talk from your personal experience or impressions.
Well, we have like a few recommendations we can make. We need to put up. We need to have the political will. We need to have laws, because this is all starts from the laws, that these policies are not youth friendly, especially in business. That when you go to business, the person who has been in business for 10 years is treated the same like the person who is starting, which makes it very hard on young people. Because if you're going to all pay taxes at a certain level, someone who has like $1 billion can manage a certain, if they say like each product, let me give an example, that if you're manufacturing this bottle and they are taxing 10% of this bottle, the law is going to apply to everyone in this bottle making industry. It does not look at this young person who has passion in investing in this business, and how are they going to help them grow. Most of these young people's businesses have not even made their first birthday. They die at the beginning because the taxes are too high. They are choking them. So even if they have the love to be in the business, the policies and the laws are very stringent on them, that they are ones pushing them out of business. So we need to have more youth-friendly policies that are going to encourage young people to come into business. So the politicians should have the political will. You know, we are struggling with the political will. So if we had political will to engage young people and to help them grow in business, this is where we would have started from. So can we go back into policy formulation and we make youth-friendly policies so that they can help them? We give them incentives, like in, where we come from. They give foreigners, I'm not against foreigners, but they give a Chinese man who comes as an investor, they give them a tax holiday for a whole year, not paying tax. And a young person who is just starting, you have to, the first day you do your business, taxes start counting. 1 month down the road, your taxes are much more than your capital. So they drop out. So we should also look at such laws. How do we have youth-friendly laws that are going to encourage them and saying, okay, if you're starting, we're giving you a holiday of 6 months. So we're going to review. How are you doing? We're going to monitor your incomes, your expenditures. So should we add you 1 year for you to grow and you can stand on your own? Then you start paying taxes slowly. That's also something. Giving out incentives like free land. Again, I'll go back to investors. When investors come to Africa, they are given free land. They're given free land. If a young person needs to start up a hub, if you did not inherit land from your grandparents, you have to buy it. If you do not inherit land from your parents, you have to buy land, start from there. So you're already starting on spending. So by the time you recover that money, the business has not even made 1 year in the system, and it's already collapsing. So I think these incentives that we give to foreign investors should also apply to our young people. Taxes should be also waived for them like we waive for foreign investors. This is how we are going to encourage most of them to come in business and stay. Also, we need to invest into mindset change. Most young people have been biased because they have seen others have failed. They feel like, no, business is not my thing. Everyone, is just like the way I said, you come from university, first thing you're looking for a job. So mindset change. We also need to invest it and make them love business. Most young people don't even want to think about, they even call it hustle. They don't want to hustle. They feel like the streets are bad because we have made them to think that the streets are bad. So we need to encourage them, put in the effort of changing their minds. Governments should also go ahead and look for markets. Some of the young people have products. They have put in the energy, but they do not have markets because some of these young people have not even traveled past their first border. And sometimes when you produce something, because we are a small population as Africa, we cannot consume all our products. But the market out there, it needs a lot of money for you to move out past the continent. Someone will need an air ticket to go look for market out there. So I think it should be government to put in effort to bring investors from other countries to showcase, to exhibit what this country people are doing. Also, we can invest into benchmarking activities. How are the young people in Asia doing it? How are they managing to successfully be in business? Should we make it a law that at a certain number of young people would be flown to Asia, move around, see other young people at their age, what they are doing, so they get encouraged that, oh, if this young man can own such a factory, I can also own it. So these are, I studied when we were still at the university, they told us that how Asia managed to develop and also beat the West is because they had exchange programs. These young people would go to US, would go to UK, learn, they go back home and implement. And you see how China is skyrocketing. So I think as Africans, we should also copy such of these traits. So this is how we are going to manage to help our fellow young people to beat this kind of unemployment that has made them hate in themselves. Thank you.
So thank you for those thoughts. So maybe we can change a little bit, Nelly. So we know the situation right now is difficult for young people when it comes to finding jobs. Every year about between 8 and up to 12 million people enter, and then there are about 3 million jobs in the formal sector. How about migration? Because a lot of young people are also thinking about leaving their country, even the continent, and going abroad. What's your view on that, and what's the role of AFCFTA in this?
Thank you very much, Susanna. So both of you have touched on the diaspora resource in one way or another, because you have talked about going abroad, gaining skills, and hopefully coming back home. And you have asked me a question about the role of migration in AFCFTA implementation. So if I can start first by speaking about the African diaspora resource, right? We were speaking about this in a solution session yesterday, about the role of remittances in the socioeconomic development of the continent. Now, apart from remittances only, the money that is sent back from the African diaspora, there is also an opportunity for a skills transfer, from Africans living abroad. But what happens, and maybe we could look at the numbers here, is Africans who go outside of the continent, maybe to study, it's a very small number that comes back, and to benefit the continent from the skills that are gained out there. So there is that opportunity to bring back the skills, not as expatriate skills or expatriate labor, but as skills of the continent, for the continent, to bring them back here. Now, when we speak about migration, which is an age-old issue, it has gained, popularity recently for the wrong reasons, and especially related to Africa. We have to look also at the movement of Africans across the border, because to me that is one of the elements that is causing some challenges for AFCFTA implementation, because right now movement of people in Africa, within Africa, is still very difficult. So if we then start talking about how to implement the AFCFTA itself and to derive the benefits of, or unlock its potential, and at the same time we are still bound by our geographical identities and not opening up the borders to trade within ourselves, then I think we are not showcasing the will to actually benefit ourselves from the AFCFTA. You see what I mean? So I know you asked about migration in terms of Africans leaving the continent, but I think we need to look at it in the other way around, of Africans moving within the continent to make sure that we are actually benefiting from this agreement that we have adopted.
So you're absolutely right, Nelly, because most of the migration still happens within Africa. So rather than going outside of the continent. And as we know, actually, from economic theory and practice, migration is really necessary also for regional integration and to serve as a shock absorber. So especially when the macroeconomic tools are limited. So maybe, Oliver, we can ask you now, how about this World Social Summit? What do you expect to gain here as a kind of additional knowledge, networks, and what will you bring back to your organization?
So this is a world stage, and I think all the business happens here. And what I would like to take back home to Africa is maybe opportunities. I would like to see policies being formulated that are going to be youth-friendly, especially in Africa, where they're going to look at how they're going to financially empower young people through what I said, because most UN policies are the ones that trickle down to our countries. And I would like to see a policy that says that we want young people to be helped with taxes. How? Let's give them incentives. If a young person decides to go in industrialization, how do we going to give them a waiver? Let's not put them on the same. There's what they call equity and equality. So how do we help young people to give them equity? And then they can also have a breather when it comes to, if a young person is below 35 years, how do we pull this person's hand? How do you help them so that we do not push all of them in an ocean of where we're going to have a fish and a shark, and then they end up being swallowed by these very laws. So this global stage should help us employ governments, because I'm sure all heads of governments are here and all they are having their representatives on how they can help young people to have access to credit, to also have incentives that are helping them to invest in business, also to privilege. How are we privileging our numbers at the continent? The young people should be more, the numbers should be more of a blessing than a curse, because this is an energetic lot we have that they can do anything and they can turn anything into anything. So how are we privileging their numbers on being productive than being less productive? How are we going to have our minerals? Africa is a sleeping giant. We have everything it takes to be very rich. We have the labor, we have the minerals, we have all the raw materials, but we do have a challenge of importing all of them, and then we again buy the same product from our raw materials. which makes it that we are always purchasing, we are always giving out the money to other people. So how are we privileging our numbers, our raw materials, and also the energetic group of people that we have, so that we don't see it as a curse rather than a blessing? Just like the way you see China's numbers, their number are blessing to them. They don't look at us as a problem because they turned these young people into being productive. So how are we also influencing at this global stage the change of our education system that is raising more of consumers than producers, raising more of white-collar jobs than being innovative and creative? So I think this is how we should be. Me personally, this is how I'm looking at policy level, because policy, everything starts with policy. So we need to look at how we are going to change policy from the UN, because most policies that come from the UN are the ones that we benchmark in our different countries. So I think this is what I can take, I can advocate for on this global platform.
No, thank you very much for that. And also from what you were saying, we can see, yes, government has important role to play, but it cannot do it alone, right? So it needs active involvement of private sector in training, etc., efficiency, and of course young people themselves who need to advocate, who need to organize themselves and put forward their voice. And this was hopefully what we have also done here today. And I thank you so much for your time and sharing your view. Much appreciate, and I'm sure we will continue the conversation and some actions. So thank you, and thank you to our audience as well.